Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm as always your host, Brody Robertson, and today we have a returning guest. We have Richell back on the podcast, who is the CEO of System 76 and does many other things related to System 76 stuff. Welcome back to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
So, obviously, the main thing that I want to talk about is Cosmic, right? Because that's like the Alpha 2 just came out, what, 3-4 days ago, something like that?
Yeah, I think it was September 26th, I believe.
Mhm,
So usually we do Thursday releases.
mhm.
So yeah, I think that was September 26th.
So the way I understood the press release is going forward, there's going to be a new release like every single month because the gap between 1 and 2, what was it, like 36 days or something weird like that, which is like it's a schedule, right? But like it's hard to really plan around what you're going to do there.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few things with that actually. So first it was the first alpha release, and so a lot more people were getting exposure and seeing what we've been working on. Um, And we're also learning through this process because we have downstreams now
Mhm,
that we didn't have before. And so we were used to our development cycles being essentially uh, do the work that we're doing for Pop OS,
mhm,
goes into our CI, it goes through our QA checks and through the QA team, and then it gets released to our customers or Pop OS users. And anything that ends up also being something that's valuable upstream, like hardware support or fixes in GNOME or anything like that, then goes upstream and goes through their normal cadence.
mhm, mhm.
Uh, so we're used to just shipping software
Right, right.
and it's shipping fast. So from Alpha 1 until Alpha 2, Pop OS users were getting all the work that we were doing constantly, and then we're starting to get duplicate bug reports and things we fixed in this project and that project and the other project, and um, different distributions, whether it's Fedora, Arch, or Nix, or packaging. Fedora has a daily channel, but then they also most of these prefer to package tagged releases.
Mhm,
And so we realized what we needed to do was change to something that was more predictable for them,
mhm.
something that also was enough of a cadence that we could show a lot of work being done, and at the so it was worthwhile for them to repackage it,
Mhm.
and but not too long so that people were just using especially with something moving this fast, old software.
Right.
So yeah, we decided to go with monthly releases and we prioritize our work within those releases.
Mhm.
So we know what we want to get into Alpha 3, what we want to get into Alpha 4. It's not certain that everything will go into it because we're going to release on the last Thursday of October. So this one's going to be a little longer. It'll be the 31st, I
Okay.
believe. So we'll release on the last Thursday of each month until all the major features are done.
Okay. Because that's that's one of the things I have noticed that with like some of the reports that have been made, some of them are being made against the alpha tag, whereas others being made against a git tag. If somebody it does want to like get involved with like testing out Cosmic, would the preferred method to just be running whatever the latest git release would be, or do you think there's still some value in doing it from those tag releases as well?
Always the latest Git release. That's just what's we've probably we're addressing so many things so quickly that even we're a week out and we've probably fixed 30 or 40 bugs
Right.
already.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that are like holdovers from prior to Alpha 1. Like my favorite example right now is the fact that vertical monitor screenshots don't work. I love how for
Yeah,
anyone who doesn't know like how broken they are. I think it's related to the portal. I don't think you can capture vertical monitors properly either. Um, but right now, if you try to capture a vertical monitor, uh, so usually a screenshot tool like makes a still frame of the monitor. Right now it's rotated, so it like covers the middle of the screen. Also, half of it is blacked out. So, but this is what I expect.
yeah.
Vertical monitors are one of those things that so many projects just don't test or just don't test properly.
Well, what's interesting is that was actually my call because because we do have a tester that uses vertical monitors,
Ah, okay.
and it's Aaron or a Honeybun,
Mhm,
and he reported a long time ago, and I said, I don't know. I think it's okay for the alpha release. We'll let's ship and we'll get to it. And we actually tried getting it in before the alpha 2 release,
Mhm.
but the engineer that would be working on that is working on the iced refactor, which is
Ah.
a really big project and a lot of work. Because it goes first, we have to refactor iced into libcosmic,
Mhm.
and then we have to update all the applets, all the apps, and everything else. There's going to be a lot of benefits that come out of that, but it's just a really big project, and so Ashley didn't get to the vertical monitor
Mhm.
screen shot fix yet.
So, with the different alpha releases, what is sort of the, I guess, general update cycle? Like, how much are you trying to get into each of these alpha releases? Obviously, there's also going to be bugs that take up time as well, but of the features that are intended, like the ones that you guys know that you want to do before users suggest anything, how much are you trying to get into each of these releases?
The way I actually have this outline, so I have each alpha release outlined with the amount that we'd like to achieve, and so like Victoria and I talked about what she'd like to get done in the compositor for October, what she'd like to get done, how she'd like to prioritize it, and so that's how we get together, and then so that's we just get together and discuss what the engineer would like to work on, what makes sense for them, what things are grouped together, because these are all DRM, KMS stuff, and so I would like to work on that together. And so just from the feedback from the development team, that goes into what we expect to get done within that month. I work with Michael on what settings and how to prioritize the settings. A lot of really what we're looking for with settings is how do we enable more users to use Cosmic in a friendly way.
Mhm.
So I really want to get like region settings done in the next cycle.
Mhm.
Things like that, just so that more people have fewer fewer problems just using it day to day.
Right. Right. There's always the nitpick. Like a lot of the issues I have are like the nitpicky. Like this is like the feel of the desktop, but like core usability, that I think is definitely a lot more important to prioritize first, because you can see there's a lot of projects out there that are like just one-off developers, right? And they prioritize the shiny, the new, the exciting feature, and the core fundamentals are just not there yet. And whilst it might not crash, it's like, okay, but like, let's say it's like a file manager, for example. You have a file manager, and then like you don't have network drive support, which is something that Cosmic Files recently got. But you're working on like fancy, like I don't know, tabbing in the file manager, things like that. Like get the basic stuff actually there, and like then you can do the cool, exciting stuff.
Yeah, feature creep is the scariest thing to me, because it's very we have a general attitude that we like to say yes when people have ideas and we think they're good ideas, and or there are problems. Our first inclination is not to reject it. Our first inclination is to say, yeah, we like to do that, but there's if we don't have a line that means release, then there will never be a release,
Right.
and feature creep just piles things up, and you just won't get to that release. And the smaller things like the nitpicks,
Mhm.
those are the things that I think are really important for the overall feel, but they're also the things that really actually don't take very long.
Sure.
Bugs and nitpicks are things that I want to collect them. Really put it's the thing that takes the most time with those is just making sure we should be doing them.
Mhm.
You have a good. I think you and I talked about a good example on GitHub. Actually, is
Mhm.
uh, focus follows
Yeah.
mouse,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and how that should work in floating mode, um, and whether there should be a separation between raising a window and whether a window should be behind. I think these are all great things, important things for us to think through. But when we prioritize and how we get, I also want to be very careful not to just add toggles.
Right. Right.
Always be thinking about, okay, what problem are we trying to solve here? Is this what's the right approach to solving this problem? Because most of the time, I think the core problem there is in a floating mode, it's too reactive to where your mouse is
Mm-hmm.
to raising the window and distracting. So if that's really what we want to solve, what's the best way to solve that without a user needing to make a decision
Mm-hmm.
about what setting they should be choosing
Right.
to make it work right for them. So those kind of things. But point being, like the big features take more time and more engineering effort.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen like Ashley was working on panel overflow, for instance.
I know.
When you have inside the panel
Mm-hmm.
a number of applets on start, center, and end.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Ah,
if
yep, yep,
you're
yep.
on a smaller screen, sometimes those sections need to overflow because you have a whole bunch of apps open in the app tray or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's working on that while we were working towards Alpha 1. And that was a really complex feature to build. It took a number of weeks. And meanwhile, I'm piling up a number of just bugs that I'd like to fix for Alpha 1. And she finally knocks out the overflow feature. And then 2 pages of bugs get fixed in like a week. So I'm more concerned about making sure we don't do feature creep and getting the features in, and then the bugs we'll be able to knock those out.
You raised a good point about the number of toggles, and this is a problem that KDE's had to deal with, like, towards the end of 5 into 6, where they had a lot of toggles where it works, it's broken. Where there's no reason for it to be a toggle, it's something that should just be auto-detected. It's something the user shouldn't have control over, because there's no reason for them to be able to choose it doesn't work. And whilst you can't, like, it would be like adding a toggle for every single option that you can have in your Xorg config, where you don't need that to be there. Yes, it's sure, you can add them. Like an engineer, if you let them go and add a bunch of toggles for stuff, they can add a bunch of toggles for stuff. But what value is it actually adding to the user? Or is it just overcomplicating what you have there just for the sake of adding more things to choose?
It's really hard not to just add the toggle,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the easy way to say let the user decide.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we realize, excuse me, how many heuristics are going into our experiences on our phones.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a lot going on there just so that things work well on a small screen, that are kind of things that I often see as suggestions for new features in Cosmic,
Mm-hmm.
when really it should be us just figuring out how to do the right thing. It's harder to do engineering wise, perhaps sometimes, or it's well. Another good example of that are applets in the like for power, Bluetooth notifications, and so forth. Um, when you click on one, you can move over to the next one, and it will automatically open it for you.
I did notice that, yeah.
Okay, so it can be annoying though, because when you click on one and you start to move up towards the applet, if you cross over the barrier to the next one, it'll switch to the next one, and it really shouldn't do that. So there's 2 routes to take here. One route is, okay, some people really appreciate that, so we need a toggle that says, okay, open the next applet whenever I hover over it, or require that I click the applet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the setting option direction of doing it. The other direction of doing it is, how about we add a timeout or a delay before the applet starts when you start on one applet and go to the next one, so we don't accidentally trigger it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, if that's not good enough, how about a heuristic for the direction that we're moving, to get the correct intent of the user?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we can make that work well for everyone without requiring the toggle, just by thinking about it in that direction
Mm-hmm.
instead of a switch.
Okay, no, I see where you're coming from there. The only problem you have there is then it you have to then guess what the majority of users are going to think feels good, and obviously you can test it and tweak and things like that, but I guess trying to guess what the user is doing there adds a lot more complexity to the problem than just adding a toggle, and I guess that's why the toggle can seem like I guess, the better approach to do, at least in the short term.
I just don't think it's actually that hard of a problem to solve
Okay.
and make it work for everyone. But that's and then that's again like determining intent is um that is a harder. It is definitely harder. But that is what modern operating systems do much more than I think we realize, and it's a better approach. I like to be able to browse through my menus and see things, but I don't want them accidentally triggered. So I would like to just see it work right and go for that. Go that direction. It
Right.
does take more effort, but that means it's a better product.
That's fair. That's fair. So, how is Cosmic trying to position itself? Like, what is Cosmic trying to be? And I guess more importantly, what is Cosmic not trying to be?
Okay.
I
Well,
maybe right now during the early alpha, it's hard to tell because as you said, you're very open to adding a lot of new things. So maybe that vision isn't fully formed yet.
uh, it's it's pretty simple why we're building Cosmic and what we want it to be. So um, it's Cosmic it stands for Computer Operating System Main Interface Components. So it's a collection of components to build a user experience. Cosmic is intended to be a platform to build user experiences. Pop! OS just happens to be one target. That's it. It's a response to our customers' needs and the things that we've identified. Tiling is a great example because we just had before we did our initial tiling work as an extension in GNOME, there were just a huge number of people that requested or were using tiling or were using i3 on POP. So we were it was pretty easy to determine that we just weren't building a product that our customers needed. So then we got in, when we made the decision to build Cosmic, it wasn't, what we wanted to build was the ability for anybody to create a user experience. We knew that System76 and Pop! OS users are a unique customer base that has unique needs. Where GNOME targets their users, I think they have identified who they want to build GNOME for, and they build the features and the feature set for that user. But you can't also use GNOME really to build that experience for our customers.
Right.
Or there's so much friction that it's just not worth it.
I have added 100 extensions into GNOME. You can do some weird things to it. You shouldn't, and it's not very happy about running like this. But something built like this from the start, is obviously going to give you something a lot nicer to work with if your goal is customization.
Right. It's not meant for that end. But we felt that there were a lot more people, not just us, that could make use of a platform built for that intent purpose. So whether it's, you can build a Chrome OS experience. If you just want to build something really, really simple that is, targeted towards very, casual use without a lot of bells and whistles, Cosmic can be put together in a way that delivers precisely that experience. Or you can do something as elaborate as what we're trying to build for our users, or you can do something in the middle. The way that it's architected, I think, is its intent is to enable this incredibly creative, capable, amazing open source community to experiment with different devices, with different experiences, with different ways of using a desktop, and just give a platform for people to explore and create.
Well, going to the flip side of that, like what is Cosmic not trying to is you've obviously got this goal of having this desktop that you can build around certain experiences, but is there anything that Cosmic is explicitly not trying to venture into that is sort of outside what this desktop really makes sense to do?
Guess I haven't really thought about limitations. I don't think I've really started. I typically start there. So I can tell you where we're not going, where I don't think we'll be at the first release,
Mhm.
I don't expect to support touch devices very well in the
Right.
first release. I definitely don't expect experience on a phone to be incredible,
Mhm.
even though I've already seen people running Cosmic on phones. It's
Mhm.
exciting. Um, I Cosmic isn't built for things that don't have screens. How about that?
Sure, I'll give you that one. No, I
But I
think the
can't
point you made
really.
about mobile makes sense though. Like that's a whole nother additional desktop project on top of what you're doing. Like obviously a lot of things can be reused, but designing interfaces that make sense on a mobile device is a very different kind of design. And also the whole touch stuff. Like if you're going to do touch, then you need to start worrying about like on-screen keyboards. You need to design touch into like interaction. Isn't there like basic like gesture support right now? So there's at least that, or am I mistaken?
There is gesture support. There's some touch support.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, one of our developers has been working on a like Microsoft Surface, I believe, and so he's done some work to make touch work. But our engineering team doesn't have a bunch of touch devices. Our QA team doesn't have
Right.
touch devices. We're just not targeting and putting a lot of effort there. As far as responsiveness down to a mobile device, we've been thinking about that since the early design prototypes because um, well, we think about it for tiling
Mm-hmm.
because we know we want any application to work in that size of a window.
Mm-hmm.
It also means that it actually does work quite well, or it can work quite well on a phone. But the things you would change are like you would, perhaps you would have different applets essentially. You'd probably still have a top bar, or maybe you would put it somewhere else. That's the whole point, is getting to experiment with this stuff. But then you would build a different set of applets for that use case. You wouldn't try to retrofit the applets for a desktop into a mobile experience,
Mm-hmm.
because then you're just getting, I think, the lowest common denominator for both.
Right. Okay. So there's definitely been some thought about it at least. So it's something that you guys would be interested in exploring like post release. I'm guessing.
We'll work on touch after the first release.
Okay.
And whether that's laptops or tablets or different kind of devices, we'll want to improve the experience there. Eventually, Citizen 76 will have touch laptops,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
and so we want to build a great experience in Cosmic for those hardware products that we're going to be developing. So that'll be a lot of fun, getting when we start exploring new hardware and form factors and perfecting Cosmic for those.
Mm-hmm. So, what has the general reception around Cosmic been like? Because I'm kind of like, I don't know, maybe we're both in biased position. Because I'm in a position where I really like Cosmic, so people like it. They're watching the videos probably like Cosmic a lot, and you like work for the company that does Cosmic. So we're both in very biased positions here. But at least from your perspective, what has it been like, and what is if there has been like a common issue people have brought up that like maybe not something that's just very easy to fix. If there's anything there as well, we can talk about that.
Yeah. Uh, so I read every review, I watch every video, almost every review. There are some that aren't worth reading. We can talk about criticism, because I think that's kind of an interesting topic when you're building things and you're a person building things. I'm very pleased with the response to what we've been building. It's better than what I anticipated. The day of the alpha, beforehand, I wrote this thing out for the teams, because some of our team they've released products before. They've been with us and done this with Pop! OS. So, they've seen what that experience is like. Others, this is a new, you get pretty big exposure releasing something like Cosmic. It's kind of new and different for some of our team members. And I told them there's going to be some people that absolutely hate it. There's going to be people that love it. There's going to be lots of criticism, and it's our job to take that criticism, make a judgment about whether that criticism helps us add value to our products, or it's something it kind of comes in four kind of categories. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's criticism that is something that we missed, or is a good idea, or is just is helpful to us to think about and prioritize.
Sure, like
Uh,
desktop zoom, for example, like for accessibility.
Absolutely, yeah. That's just a feature that we don't have that is necessary.
Mhm.
Um, there's criticism that is stuff that you just disagree with, and that's all right. We're building a product. There's going to be things we disagree with. I've seen the biggest one I've seen is, and the most common one is window controls on the left.
Okay. I use
I see.
keyboard bindings for everything. I don't even acknowledge where they are.
Yeah, it's a common one, and but having an option to move to the left just completely breaks the application user experience,
Mhm.
and so I just can't see doing that one. So we just have to agree to disagree on that, and I hope it doesn't mean it's not the platform for you. But
Mhm.
if it is, that's the case, then that's so be it. Then there's another group that's kind of like you're watching the sausage be made and don't quite, and this is a unique experience, even from a user perspective, seeing something made this way.
Mhm.
And so it's like, I filed this bug 2 years ago and you still haven't done it. Well, we got to fix this and build this and build this and build this. I know it's important to you, but it's just that this is part of the process means that thing that was really important to you wasn't something that we could build yet. And
Right.
it doesn't mean that it's not good feedback. Um, it's just not time for that. And then there's the bad faith feedback and
Mhm.
criticism, which with the first three things and how valuable they are and how much of it there is, if you're out there and you're creating things, um, though just put your focus on those because there is going to be bad faith feedback
Mhm.
um, and it just has no in the end it just doesn't matter to the end project because there's so much feedback from the other sources that are valuable and
Mhm.
adding to the project doing. So I think we've got a mix of all of that throughout the experience of Cosmic as we expect. And overall, I kind of astonished. I think I saw you with some of your bug reports and somebody say, it's okay, Brody, it's an alpha.
Yeah, I
Like,
saw that. Like, yes, I'm aware. I'm literally streaming it right now. Thank you.
and I think I think that's I don't know. I think it's awfully sweet that
Mhm.
people are even out there to say it's an alpha, it's okay. Like they're still working on it
I think
because
one thing I do want to say there is it's not just with Cosmic. I've seen this with KDE as well. There are some people who want to play defense for bugs, like who just obviously they want them addressed, but they don't want them to be talked about. Like it's this weird. I don't know. Like anytime
yeah,
you have any sort of like honestly anything where you can be on something's team, there's always going to be people that don't want like any criticism of the team, even if that criticism is like valuable and or the
yeah,
people working on it agree like it's valuable criticism.
yeah. You're right. I think that's it. Uh, it's but I guess that's why it's I don't know so special to me that people even feel a need to defend just what's legitimate criticism.
Mhm.
Bug reports are great. All
Mhm.
the people that are testing Cosmic and creating bugs for us, and that's helping us
Creating
make a
bugs
better
for us.
product. Create
That's your
filing
engineer's
issues.
problem. That's not the users.
Yeah, filing bugs for us. Uh, the it's I mean it's a lot to triage and a lot to work through, but it's just helping us make a better product.
Mhm.
Uh, so I really appreciate all the the folks that are saying it's an alpha. It's supposed to have bugs because you know what it is.
Mhm.
The whole reason for releasing the alpha is to get more exposure and identify the things that we're doing well and aren't doing well.
Right.
That's you can't do it in a vacuum.
Well, you could just design it in a vacuum and then release like 3 years from now and be like, here's Cosmic, and then people test it and they're like, the exact same thing happens, but now you have a ton more code to sift through because you
Yeah,
just didn't go public earlier with it. Like, you could just treat it like, there's no alpha, there's no beta. Maybe there's an internal one, but you don't do a public release for it. And then you're just like, here's 1.0, enjoy. And
yeah.
you just don't get that feedback, and you're just pushing the feedback to a later point at that, like doing that.
Well, what's fascinating about Systems 86 that's essentially how hardware works.
Right, right.
We hardware is a totally different animal, and like building Thalio and building launch keyboards or all the in the laptop products that we develop, they are we ship 1.0, and there's never feedback before that. It's a very different process. Hardware is much more challenging in that way, but and you can't update it after you shipped it either. So you really have to kind of approach it with a completely different mindset. But that's also one of the reasons we took on manufacturing in the way that we did. It wasn't so that we could ship buggy stuff. It was so that we could respond more quickly and continuously improve hardware in the way that we're doing software, even though we can't replace it in the field.
Yeah, there's no point designing a software with the same limitations as the hardware. You might as well take advantage of the software benefits and actually more iteratively design upon it, and hopefully in the long run ship something better.
Yeah, I think we chose a pretty good place for the alpha release because from what I've seen, a lot of people are able to daily drive it. There were some early bugs that were that we needed to address, but we're able to address those. And I think it's already fun technology to use. And as a geek that loves technology and loves just tinkering with stuff, I think that's where it was. It was at that time for the folks like us that just love tinkering with technology. It was there and ready to dive into.
I was genuinely surprised with how few crashes I found. The only crash I managed to do was from some weird combination of the screenshotting tool. If you did a selection capture and you didn't make a selection, it created a garbled screenshot, and then dumping that into GIMP, that would kill the entire desktop. Like, that's not a setup that most people are going to try to do. I noticed it happened once, and I had to try and replicate it. But besides that, I don't think I've actually found a way to crash. I'm sure there are crash bugs, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure that you guys have had to deal with some of them, but there was nothing, at least on my hardware, like, immediately obvious. Like, you didn't close a window and then things just randomly died, or you open too many windows, things randomly die, things like that.
Yeah, the crashes, or they were hard. Like we found a bug where you could crash the panel, and an applet should never crash the panel, but we figured out why that was happening recently. But these problems were like a crash was hard to find. It wasn't something simple. But I've been daily driving Cosmic for 2 years now. So I've seen the evolution from the days when it was very, very difficult to use, but my tolerance is also really high.
Sure.
I don't need much. If I can launch an application and I can close it. What's interesting too is for a while I used Cosmic just in floating mode, which for me was really painful because I'm so used to tiling that I was using everything was floating, dragging windows around again, but just to try to identify things that were different, because we were trying to reproduce our tiling experience on our floating experience, so we just needed more people using it that way. Now as I'm seeing bugs come in, I'm starting to realize maybe I have to use floating mode again. maybe there's some things I'm just not seeing, because so many of us, like all the engineers, use tiling. I don't know anyone on the team that uses floating mode, and so we just that's another reason for the alpha and why it's helpful, because there are people that are using it that way, just identify things that we aren't seeing while we're in this heavy development mode. Like the QA team at the same time, right now they're writing all of documents for all of the projects, so that eventually once we get to the beta, the QA team has checklists that they'll go through for every project. And that's when we'll start hitting things with floating mode, but we really need to start identifying more, I think, today. So
right.
Unfortunately, I might have to guinea pig that again.
Yeah, I did see you comment on one of the issues I made where there was like fake mouse events happen. I haven't had a chance to probably test it yet, but for anyone who hadn't seen my stream on Cosmic, there was this issue where if you dragged a window, sometimes it would, I think, not do the mouse up event or something like that. I'm not entirely sure what the internal condition was, but even though you weren't pressing anything, it would think your mouse is down and you would like be highlighting stuff for no reason. but it wasn't consistent, which was weird to me. Like that's what really threw me off with that one. Or like there's one where focus wasn't swapping between monitors, but it wasn't consistent. And the ones that are not consistent, those are the ones that really annoy me. Because when I report a bug, I really like to have like clean replication conditions if I can, because I know how much easier it makes it if that is there. If it is something where it's like, oh, it happens like 20% of the time, like, okay, that's good, but it makes it a lot more annoying to know if it's fixed. It's one thing if the engineer can repeat it, but if they haven't got a like consistent way to do it, you might think you fixed it, but you actually haven't done so yet.
Yeah, and it only makes sense for us to prioritize bugs based on how reproducible they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can just reproduce it, then we can track it down and solve it. If it takes a long time or it's real finicky to reproduce, it's one, it's less likely to hit users. It just can't have the same kind of priority, well, because it shouldn't, and because it's hard to reproduce. I think I remember that one you're talking about where I think if you highlighted text inside of a terminal, it would just pop up a window from below the terminal at some point.
Something like that. Yeah.
But I think that one was fixed because that was really driving me crazy, because it was server-side decorations was one of the easier ways to reproduce it, because when you clicked on one, it would just grab the window and pull it out. Pull it on I say pull it out, but that's because of tiling. But yeah, I think that one was fixed. So I was hoping that because the SSD grabs, I was hoping it's the same thing as the SSD grabs. But
yeah, I'll have to look at that one. Hopefully it's fixed. That'll be good.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. There's some core things that Victoria's working on. Victoria works on Cosmic Comp, and some of those are clicks and layers, like which layer you're on and what gets the click. And so we have some problems that we get a lot of different bugs in different places because of one core issue that needs to be refactored. And refactoring that in the compositor should knock out a whole bunch of bugs across the desktop. At least that's the hope. And that one might even be related to that too, if it's two different bugs.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about having a toolkit where sometimes bugs just happen across things, and you might get a bug report on files and terminal. Turns out they're actually the exact same bug, but maybe they are like producing in a slightly different way based on what the application is trying to be.
Yeah, and there's that's a lot of our right to left text bugs are really going to be grouped together and kind of knocked out at once. I think for the most part, just with our iced refactor and some layout things. So menus currently can't overlap outside of the window bounds, which is really interesting.
Okay.
And so, but that's also going to be fixed in one place. And then once the apps have a new libcosmic, then it's fixed everywhere. So yeah, that is and it of course is important and valuable for your app ecosystem. That when you're using a library libcosmic, it's a nice thing about libodata as well. As from that you can adapt the desktop without redoing everything in every application.
Yeah, this is an issue that KDE is trying to resolve themselves, because they've got like 5 different ways they design applications, and they're trying to like make a united system to address all of this, because you're not going to redesign those applications. There is just so much of their desktop. I think the desktop itself is done a lot of that in SVG, and then there's other things in Qt Quick, and there's other things in another library, and once you've put yourself in that situation, digging yourself out of that takes a lot of effort, and just making sure you don't get yourself into that position from the start is probably the better way to do it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that for KDE, because one of my goals, what I would love to see is KDE apps look really great on Cosmic. Cosmic apps look great on KDE, and that kind of effort I think would help that along. So we've done some work applying our theming to KDE applications, and just hasn't worked as smoothly as it does for libadwaita applications.
Mhm.
So that sounds like that would be something that would help help that effort quite a bit. I want Linux applications to look great no matter which desktop you're on.
That'll be nice.
I
Yeah.
think that's better for our app ecosystem. Better for user choice. So I think that's a worthy goal for all of us.
Mhm. One thing I've talked about on my channel a bit is that Cosmic is in a very different position than something like both GNOME and KDE were when they started, because they both started in the very early days of Linux. I think it both started mid to late 90s. There were desktop, there was CDE back then. Like, desktops existed, but what we know about designing desktop environments today is very different than what we knew back then. So Cosmic is in this position where it doesn't have to repeat those same mistakes that those desktops had made 20, 30 years ago. It can learn from those and design a desktop that is, already addressing those use cases for its users today.
Yeah, I think there's something to not having legacy baggage that does help a project. I don't know how much it deters. I know there are some strange bugs come about because of legacy things. I saw the one about the launcher or the app launcher. My
Yeah.
gosh, that's bizarre. But or they have the .desktop file, right? For
Yeah.
and how they're done with shortcuts or something along those lines. So I don't know how much it holds those projects back because they also seem to really move at a good pace and be able to to make progress. Maybe we're so close to Wayland just being the de facto standard now that there's a lot of cruft and old decisions that can kind of be taken out. Um, so I think it is definitely a benefit, and it's some of ours is just lucky timing between Wayland and where it was and where NVIDIA got with their drivers. It was those were things that were kind of outside of our control in a lot of ways, but we just had lucky timing that we could build a new desktop, and our customers were going to sacrifice. Like Pop 2204 is on X Wayland for a reason, or sorry, on X11 for a reason, and that's just 2022. We couldn't go to Wayland in 2022. Half of the computers we ship wouldn't work. That's not the case just 2 years later. So some things were just luck.
Right now with Wayland, what is still sort of out of your control? Or obviously, you have Victoria getting involved in upstream Wayland discussions, so it's not entirely out of your control, but what is something in Wayland right now that is holding Cosmic back that you guys want to do? It's just a matter of getting that discussion resolved upstream.
Gosh, I know that there are one or two that we would like the protocols we'd like to see merge. I just don't remember the details, but yeah, I can't recall. But I don't think that we feel like they're too much of a. I think they're even those that aren't merged yet are close enough that we feel like we could still implement them and be okay if we need to make some changes because the final merge is a bit different. So I don't think we're I think we're in a pretty good place. So I think Wayland, I know that there's been efforts with to kind of change the processes around.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, Valve devs coming in like, no, we're gonna fix this now. Enjoy.
I think faster is better, and I think maybe whacking the hornet's nests a little bit, to try to make some change might create some good decisions or good discussions that result in better processes for everyone. What can happen in a project, and it's really easy to kind of get stuck in the path that has worked before, and it's hard to get outside of that and just and think, should we just rethink what we're doing entirely, because it's just really easy to get into a process rut. It happens companies, like it happens in System 76, and we have to really force ourselves to think outside of what we've been used to doing.
Mm.
And so I think that that's just pretty standard for any project. And sometimes you just need something from the outside to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely definitely shake things up. That I, I I think overall the people involved in Wayland did initially there was a lot of people who were like, very skeptical about it, but it seems like as it's shaken out over the past couple of days, people have appreciated the change because it seems like a lot of people were aware of the issue and acknowledged the issue, but no one was saying the issue. Like, right? Like I've mentioned to myself, I'm not involved in Wayland protocol discussion, so it's like there's less value for someone who is outside of that. But it seems like everybody basically agreed with my position that there is a problem here. It needs to be addressed, but nobody wanted to step up to, I guess, take the heat that was going to come from the people who didn't think there would need to be something to address there.
Yeah. What is it called? Frog protocols?
Yeah, frog. That was the first one, and then following that there is four separate merge, three or four separate merge requests by Mike Blumenkrantz, also a contractor at Valve, basically restructuring a lot of governance stuff as well. So there's the combination of those two. Frog started it, and then it led into those discussions as well.
Right.
I think I have a combination of like 300 comments right now.
Well, I think it's important to just assume good faith in all these things, and I can understand how difficult it is to just see yourself from the outside.
Sure. Yeah.
I can fully appreciate it. We have processes at System 76 that we've been doing for a long time. That, well, one example is imaging. So we build what we call a golden image, and that image is used to put the operating system on hardware. We're moving to a new ERP system, and the first instinct was to completely reproduce the process that we had before. So that meant the imaging system did a lot of things like took in the serial number, took in the tracking number, to move that from one place to another, did all these things. And so there was engineering time and effort put into reproducing the experience what we've done before. Well, our imaging systems were just as complex and didn't work as well, and we couldn't do exactly what they want to do because the ERP system is different. So after we all just finally took a step back, we said, okay, what the right thing to do is for the imaging system just to be an imaging system. It shouldn't do any of this other stuff. Let's make the ERP do these things that the imaging system had done before. So the serial number we can change some processes on the line, and instead of all of our custom software and maintaining that forever, we're paying for this ERP system. Let's have it to it. So there's my Wayland protocols sympathy. If you've been part of a process for a long time, it's just the most natural thing to continue that process. But it's good and helpful and healthy to have someone on the outside say, no, this is nuts. I think about this for Ubuntu's SRU process sometimes. Like this process has been around for 20 years. Is this really the right process for updates to shipping software? Maybe it should be something different because there are these other benefits. But it just means, saying, and I think there've been some changes recently with that too, but it's hard to to get to shake yourself out of the rut.
Well, you mentioned releases there, and that's actually a great segue. What is the plan for the next pop release and Cosmic? Is the plan to just ship Cosmic, or what is happening here?
So Pop 2404 will be that's the next release for Pop OS. It'll ship with Cosmic, and Pop 2204 customers or users will be able to upgrade from 2204 to 2404. The upgrades are actually we're going to enable those upgrades underneath a development flag. So only users that we're not going to spread this very wide because it's not quite ready. It's just for users that really want to try 2404, don't mind being on an alpha release to upgrade. But the applications that we replaced in Cosmic will replace the applications that were there in GNOME, like Nautilus by Cosmic Files and Pop Shop by Cosmic Store and so forth.
Yep.
So that's the plan. It means there's been a big gap since we've had Pop! OS releases, but we're getting there and we're getting close. So hopefully it's not too much longer, and we'll be shipping a new 2404 version with Cosmic.
On 2404, how are the Cosmic updates going to work? Is it going to be when there's a new tagged release, you can just update to that, or what are you going to do there?
In Pop! OS, it'll follow our same CI cadence that we've used before. So we just use continuous integration with a staging. QA hates it when I call it staging, but I call it staging. It's the staging repo, and so everything goes into the staging repo. Today, what happens in Cosmic is, because it's an alpha release, and if you're on 2404 or 2204 for that matter, we do daily releases of what's ever in staging. When after 2404 is released, then the staging release has to go through the manual QA checklists for each release, and once they've signed off on it, then it goes into Pop! OS.
Okay.
But we also understand, and that's part of the reason we started switching to monthly, because we understand that our upstreams will handle this in a different way. And so the plan is to have a tagged bug fix release monthly after the initial Cosmic release. And then to take feedback from maintainers and the folks at Fedora and Arch and Nix OS or Nix, and just refine our process. That's one thing that's been really encouraging. I didn't expect other distributions to package Cosmic as quickly as they have.
Yeah, I think Arch had a package like basically immediately. I'm not sure about Fedora. I know that there's like a Fedora guy over there who's very interested in Cosmic.
Yeah.
But everyone, like most of the distros seem to have a package at this point.
Yeah, it's been really encouraging. And what's great about that is, by the time we get to our final release, we're going to have lots of practice working with all the different distributions, what things matter to them, what kind of cadence is going to work well, and we had one recently with Arch where a packaging bug caused Cosmic Reader to break, and users couldn't log in. And now I think both from the maintainer side and from our side, we've learned from that, and so through these alphas, we'll get to the point where I think we'll be delivering a really good product across the board, and hopefully good, bug fixes, big bug fix releases. So I think I feel pretty confident with where we're at today, but still a lot to learn. We've had 2 releases. We'll see.
As always, I am correct for logging in from the TTY and having a shell script that just runs start Cosmic.
Cosmic Greeter's so pretty, though.
Oh no, it is, definitely is.
Yeah.
I've just never been a Greeter fan. I don't really lock my system either. Like, if I had a laptop, obviously that would make more sense. But my desktop system, I'm the only one here. It doesn't really matter for me to lock it. So even that part of it isn't really relevant to me. I think I have the package installed. I just don't have it running.
Well, and there's so much. Greeter gets so much deeper because you've got things like we have Energy Star compliance requirements. And so the system has to lock, and and the screen has to go to sleep within 15 minutes. And so and then there's accessibility. How does a user determine where they're at inside of the greeter, and how well does Orca work in the greeter, and then how does that move into the desktop? So there's it's pretty critical part of the whole experience in the end.
Accessibility is a very complex topic in the end. Like, obviously there are the maybe not super simple, but like the simpler things like, hey, desktop zoom. Like that's a relatively, of the things you can deal with, a relatively self-contained, easier issue to deal with. When it comes to Orca integration, when we're still in a position where a lot of applications under Wayland are not necessarily in a position for that to work nicely. Dealing with this to a point where it's ready for a product is, I imagine, quite difficult to sort of balance, I guess.
Yeah, when we had our Alpha 1 press call, we said accessibility is the biggest question mark. We don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, and we're not certain yet. 6 weeks later, I feel confident that we're going to have good accessibility at the first release.
Mm-hmm.
We have patched AT-SPY package that's working. One of the challenges is capturing keys, especially with Wayland, because Wayland is designed explicitly not to allow that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have a solution that works well. It's working well with Cosmic, but also going to be something that upstream can use to improve accessibility and screen readers on their Wayland desktops. So we hope this work is useful for kind of the broader Linux ecosystem. But accessibility is really fascinating because to me, I think it's a much broader than what we think of accessibility.
Right.
Like the users are much broader than we think of. Like desktop Zoom is probably a perfect example for you because just in making videos, you want to be able to zoom on a subject that you're talking about.
Well, I know someone who also he's legally blind. He runs his system probably close to like 1,600%, 2,000% zoom, something in that range, where he needs it to be zoomed like that. Otherwise, he is not able to read the text.
Right. That's and so we just had a number of interviews. We asked people on social media to reach out to us, and we had a great response to it. And this was from legally blind to some vision impairment or vision or less than full vision. Mm-hmm. And it's some things like one of the things I really like about Wayland is scaling per monitor, and I know there's resistance to fractional scaling, and but when we think about it, and when I think about fractional scaling, I used to think about it like getting the right DPI so that my screen looks like the things on the screen are the right size. So I want to get System 76. We choose displays based on not needing fractional scaling. Mm-hmm. But what we've learned in the process of building Cosmic is fractional scaling is just an accessibility feature that has to work really well because I imagine me in 15 years, I'm going to be scaling at 125% or 150%. Mm-hmm. And on further down the spectrum, we've interviewed users that do zoom almost to a character on a screen. Mm-hmm. and move from character to character, and that's how they need to use that screen, or use how they the only way to use the computer. Mm-hmm. So it's our objective, whether it's our hardware or Cosmic, that in using this product, someone that's legally blind or someone with low vision doesn't have to ask someone else for help.
Right.
That's the goal. I think we're going to get pretty far to start with, but eventually, I think we can really want to get there all the way, so that so it's just not necessary to get someone's help. Mm-hmm. But by scaling itself, I think scaling is an interesting one because I think that covers this like huge swath of people. And fractional scaling is a huge swath of people where just at the very beginning of an experience, you need to help users scale their desktops to probably to a pretty big size. Mm-hmm. And then desktop Zoom takes over from that point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we've learned a lot just in the last few weeks with the interviews we've done, and it's going to inform the design that's taking place now. So I think we'll be able to show off some of these features at least in the next alpha, and then almost all of them by the fourth alpha, which will be end of November.
Well, another. I say like none of these problems are easy, but again, on the scale of difficulty, easier issue is like high contrast modes as well, where obviously you can theme Cosmic yourself, but for people that actually like need that to use a system, there should be something preferably there, like out of the box, that someone can just very easily go to.
Right. Yeah. So And I was recently creating an issue for this too, because it's interesting to think through. So we need a high contrast theme. That's not very difficult. It needs to be available through accessibility options, through or accessibility settings page, through an accessibilities applet. But then what happens on the appearance page? Because now you're applying a theme, the appearance page changes, but you're setting something someplace else. So giving that, I think that's something for us to think through. But like some simple things, or like maybe that high contrast theme toggle should be on the appearance page, because when you toggle it off, now you're all of the colors come back, or you're back to the original default. So just things like that. One that I thought would be complex, but Victoria tells me is easy, is color inversion. Apparently that's a really easy thing to do in the compositor, and so she's working on that this month, and I hope to have a color inversion option in accessibility for the next release, or
That's cool.
for the next alpha.
I would have assumed I don't know how colors and math work, so that's not something I would know what to do with. But if it's easy, hey, awesome.
Yeah, that's sometimes I'm surprised by the things. I'll request something and it's shockingly hard, and to me it looks really simple, or conceptually it seems really simple, and then someone will mention something and I think, oh, this is going to be expensive, and Victoria or Jeremy or somebody says, oh no, that's easy. It's a pleasure to work around experts that really know all this stuff.
There's definitely been some stuff that I've suggested, and they've been like, yeah, there's already a thing for that in the code. You just need to make a toggle for it. Like, they'd already gone ahead and known that someone was going to want it anyway, and maybe they wanted it, but they just hadn't, there was no interface to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that. It's interesting. It's interesting what the engineers put in for later. I've seen quite a few of those myself, and some of it is also I've also seen plenty of reports where folks have maybe created a PR for a feature that they really like, and it's something that we're concerned about exposing as a feature, because we don't want to just overload settings, and but we'll put it in a config flag so you can still have that feature in a config file, and
right.
And that's one of the ideas behind Cosmic as well, is that if we're going to enable people to do everything, or do a lot of different things that they want to do with it, it means that we have to be really receptive to features and options. But it doesn't mean that we need to overload all users with an abundance of features, because you can take this, you can build the product that you want with it. You can adapt the settings pages for what you think is going to be best for your users, and carry on. And we can do so together on one platform.
Yeah, I think when it comes to having the text-based settings, the config files, people who are willing to dig into configs are a lot more open to having just a wall of text explain, some sort of wiki that explains what each of these features do. Whereas if you're building a nice GUI, you have a lot more concern there when it comes to making sure things are laid out in a sensible way that doesn't overload people.
Yeah, we should be able to hand one of our laptops to any user, and for the most part, they don't need to go into settings. And when they do go into settings, it's very easy to find what they're looking for. And then, but I also want to cater to the other side, the folks like me, and the folks like a lot of our customers that enjoy going through settings and tinkering with things.
Right.
But then there is, I used to run Sway on 3 different computers, and I had a lot of fun doing it. It was awesome. But I also just don't want to do that.
Right.
That's I love the feature set and the capabilities, but I love going into the appearance page and creating a new theme because it's fall now, or whatever it is, and not going through and putting hex values in a config file. and then syncing it with my dot files on GitHub and then across my other desktops and all those things. I don't mind easy mode. I think that's what kind of what computers are for.
So things should feel easy to use, but Cosmic shouldn't be at a point where it feels like Cosmic Tweaks is a requirement.
Yeah, and I don't mind the idea of a Tweaks app either. There is a Cosmic Tweaks app. And,
I didn't realize someone made one already. That was a joke, but
there is a Cosmic Tweaks app, but if you compare like GNOME Tweaks and Cosmic Tweaks, there's like 75 settings and there's like 2.
Right.
and those 2, I think one of them is the padding on the dock, which is a bug. But when it's in, so we're gonna fix that, of course. But yeah, it shouldn't feel necessary because we can do this in a way that the information hierarchy doesn't feel overwhelming, or the information hierarchy makes the number of settings not feel overwhelming.
That makes sense. So let's imagine a little bit in the future. The alpha is done. How long are you guys hoping to be in alpha for? Obviously, things might go longer. You might realize there's additional things that need to be done. But how long do you hope to be in alpha for? When should we expect a beta? And once beta happens, like what? Maybe this one's easy to answer. When you're in beta, what's the release cycle supposed to look like then?
Right. So we have the project outlined, and if I'm being honest with myself, which I really don't like, I think we have Alpha 3 in October, Alpha 4 in November, and probably Alpha 5 in December. As much as I would love to try to knock out both of those in the 2 months, I think and that 5th Alpha would probably be a lot of bug fixing too. So features and bug fixing, which would put our beta in January. And the beta attracts a far, far wider audience of users. So I would suspect at that point, I hope that we've been able to do enough, had enough testing, enough interesting and weird scenarios people have found, that at that point, the beta is going to be no more than a month. So after the beta, and when I say these months, these are like end of month things. So it would be like the end of December would be Alpha 5, end of January would be Beta 1. And then end of February would be a release candidate, which is essentially wrapping everything up and creating ISOs that we would then build our images out of. It's just the final checks before release. And that's maybe a week or 2, and then you have final release. So it would be late February, early March, and I think that's pretty conservative.
Okay. I know timelines are always very difficult. We'll see where we are towards the end of the year and whether that ends up coming to fruition. I don't expect it to be a GIMP 3 situation where GIMP 3... I think they're in RC1. They're in RC1 now, so it's gonna happen. But yeah.
We are very into the importance of releasing is enormous. That we're going to ship this product to hundreds of thousands of Sim66 customers using it on their computer. It has to be really, really good, because these are paying customers that we're going to drop a new desktop on them. We're going to be very careful about how our messaging and make sure they know what they're upgrading to a new desktop environment. Some of those customers are, they buy a computer and they're off doing their thing. They're not part of this, they might not even know Cosmic exists today. And they're going to get an upgrade notice in POP 2204 about about the 2404 release. So we do have to make sure this is a final product when that time comes. But I think there's also, you can kind of see our cadence now. We have, because so much of the foundations has been built with those 6 weeks, there are a lot of features knocked out in just 6 weeks. I think we just speed up more. Community contributions with the alpha, that's another benefit. It was a community contribution to finish the Bluetooth page, for instance. Community contributor, the same person, is working on the users page. So now there are more people that are just helping us build this free desktop. So I think the cadence only kind of snowballs and gets faster as we get closer and closer to release.
I know that you said you couldn't do much over an hour. I don't know how good you are for time.
I'm pretty close. Is there anything else you want to make sure we chat about?
We could definitely keep talking for another hour, but besides that, I think we've pretty much hit on the main things. The main things I want to talk about. I'm honestly surprised that you gave me any sort of release timeline for Cosmic. I didn't expect to get a clear answer for that. Usually, people are very wary about doing that. Yeah, no, I think I've hit on the main things.
I think about that every day. I think about Cosmic's release date every single day. I look at that outline. I look at the bugs. So it's very much on my mind. I was hoping we would make it this year, but when I look at it, it's going to be too tight.
Right. And you don't want to release it early. As you said, it's a product. You want to get something actually ready. Yeah,
and it's going to people that rely on their computers every day for the work they're doing. We're responsible for that experience. If we destroy their day, we have done a bad job. So yeah, there's a lot of care and effort that's going to go into deciding when we can call it good. But we just have to make sure we don't have feature creep between now and then. That's the only thing that could throw it off. If we keep saying yes, it's gonna blow up. So you just have to be careful with that.
So let people know where they can find Cosmic, where they can find System 76's stuff, and if they want to get involved in the project and help out, make issues and PRs, where they can go for all that stuff.
System76.com/Cosmic. That's got the ISOs for download, instructions for all the different distributions. It has a list of the settings pages that still need to be done. So if you're interested in contributing, that's a great way to help. On GitHub, it's /pop-os. And if you search in the repositories for Cosmic, you'll find there's 25 repositories or so where all the different work is. Let's see. What else? In the next couple of weeks, I hope to publish the project outline.
Okay.
So I think that would be pretty cool for the community to see. I think we're from this point, we can say this is everything we need to do to finish this product, and notwithstanding the bugs that are going to come in to be fixed. So I think by publishing that's also going to give people more opportunities to, identify things they might find interesting and want to work on to help us get there. So I hope to have that for everybody in the next couple of weeks too.
Awesome. If they want to buy a System 76 laptop, what's the link for that?
System76.com and System76 is everything. System76. If you're into what we're doing with Cosmic, you're into what we're building, the best way to support us is to get a great computer. We build great stuff, great hardware. So if it's you're in the market for a computer, please consider us first.
If you don't want a computer, they also have cases. They sell the cases they have, so you can buy one of those as well.
And Launch Keyboard is a fantastic keyboard.
Yeah, there's also that.
Its layout is specifically designed to work well with Cosmic. There's actually differences in the way it's laid out that make it more efficient when you're in the Cosmic desktop. It's kind of cool. It's pretty cool. We need to do a video about that. So I think it's never really gotten through how the hardware is designed to work better with the Cosmic UX. So I think that would
definitely interesting. I would definitely like to hear that. Yeah, is that everything you want to mention?
I think that's it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay. My main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. I've got the gaming channel Brody on Games. I am now a Twitch affiliate, so I now have Twitch points. So if you just watch the stream, you get magic internet points. They don't do anything, but you can get them. I've got the React channel, Brody Robertson Reacts. I just post stream clips there. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, you can find the video version on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. If you want to find the audio release, it is on basically every podcast platform. There is an RSS feed. Put it into your favorite app and enjoy. I'll give you the final word. What do you want to say?
Oh gosh, I get the final word.
You were here already. You knew this was. Maybe you just forgot
I
this was
should
going
have
to happen.
gone. I don't know. I think most of all, oh, I think Linux is an open source. I think is an incredibly special technology and important for everyone. The computer is the most versatile and powerful thing we've ever created. Cosmic is just this one more piece. This, I think, the next layer to help this community build things with. So I hope you take that and don't consider it Systems 26's thing or Papa West thing. It is a platform for you to make things with. So go out there and make things.
Yeah, that's a good message. Wait,